This is Sensei Buck Snyder. I'm a martial artist, nature lover, and total nerd. Come have fun with Sensei in the Wild. Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to show a video of me catching and releasing a snake near Lake Livingston in the piney woods of East Texas. My friend Cesar and I had spent the day photographing wildlife, and we'd stopped by my mother's house to hang out on her deck. While chatting, I looked up and saw a snake draped across the back of one of her chairs. Before I could get a good look at it, it had slithered over the edge and went down into a bag of fertilized soil that was nearby. Man, I had to check out this snake. I looked into the bag, and while I couldn't make out its coloration, I could see that it had round pupils, which means it was non-venomous. So I brought the bag over to the middle of the porch, and as you can see here, I made the decision to catch it. I'm a huge fan of reptiles, and I especially love snakes. I apologize for the video being so dark in spots, but we weren't expecting to go on a snake chase that evening. As soon as I saw it slither into the bag, I asked Cesar to run down the street and get the net while I kept the snake in the bag. I definitely wanted to use the net for safety reasons. You'll see a lot of videos of people running up and grabbing wild snakes, but I've been bitten so many times over the years that I've learned it's better to be cautious. As a side note, the net I'm using here is actually pretty old. I bought it in the early 1990s, and I've used it to catch hundreds of critters. It's a great net because the mouth is wide, the net itself is deep, and the holes are so small that even tiny animals can be caught with it. The cloth is the only part of the original net, though. The metal handle and ring have been replaced 3 times, as they kept breaking over the years. You can see that the handle is short, and that's because the water current in the bayous would cause the aluminum to bend and eventually break under the pressure. So I made the attempt to dump it into the net, but it actually fell down onto the deck. It slithered under the chairs and went over the edge. The deck is raised up at least 7 feet, and I was afraid the snake had fallen to the ground. Instead of falling, though, it actually had woven itself through the trellis below, and now it was sliding in and out of the trellis like a ladder. I really wanted to examine this feisty little snake, so with a net, flashlight, and plastic bin in hand, Cesar and I ran down to catch it before it got away. The snake slithered under the deck, and I had to crawl underneath it to get it out. I tried to net the snake down there, but there just wasn't enough room. Instead, I chased it out from under the deck, and Cesar was able to put a plastic bin over it before it escaped. After Cesar and I had the snake in the bin, we took it back up to the deck to get a better look at it in the light. At first, I thought it was a water snake, and while most water snakes are non-venomous, they are aggressive. They tend to bite if they are threatened or provoked. But the lighting wasn't good enough to get a positive ID, so we took the snake home and I put it in a fish tank so I could properly examine it. Hey guys, we're back in here at my house. We caught this snake down at my mom's house on her porch, and when we caught it, it was dark, and I thought it was a diamondback water snake. In the dark, I could see the shape of the head and the fact that it had round pupils, which means it's non-venomous. So I knew it was a non-venomous snake, so I decided to go ahead and catch it so we can bring it back here and talk about it a little bit. This is the Texas rat snake, and this one is a juvenile, which means it's not full grown yet. Full grown, they can get up to 72 inches long, and in Texas, this is also known as the chicken snake because it commonly eats birds, eggs, and rodents, and it's commonly found in chicken houses all around the state. Now, this snake is very aggressive when people mess with it. If you try to pick it up or handle it, it is very common for it to strike you. It's non-venomous, as I already said, but that doesn't mean it can't bite and defend itself. So they like to live in wooded areas. They live in barns. They typically get in attics, and they're very good climbers. They're actually known to be able to climb straight up a brick wall. So these little guys are very common in Texas. They do very serious pest control, keeping rodents and small birds. They will get in the bird's nest and eat the eggs. So they might be considered a nuisance to some people that are bird lovers, but in general, they keep the populations under control. We're not going to keep this little guy. We just brought him back to my house so we can show a little bit more footage to you. One thing that you can see, this one has some kind of marking on his head where the skin is. I don't know if he injured himself before, but one thing about rat snakes Texas rat snakes, is the head is a solid color. So, and when we zoomed in, I don't know if you could see, but it has round pupils, which that is a sign in North America that it's a non-venomous snake. The Texas coral snake does have round pupils, and it is extremely venomous. But most snakes in North America are non-venomous, and they have round pupils. Anyway, so this is the Texas rat snake, a great, beautiful little snake. And I enjoyed catching him tonight when we had, it was unexpected at my mom's house. We were just hanging out on the porch, and then this little guy showed up. And it was funny because I actually saw him laying across the back of a lawn chair on the porch. And I went over to look at him, and he slithered into a bag of fertilizer. And upon inspection, we figured out that the fertilizer actually been sitting there for a while, and it had pine needles in it. And apparently a bird had set up a nest in there at some point, which this guy does eat birds, and eats baby birds, and eats eggs. So he probably smelled that and went there and made a home in the nest. So yeah, this is the Texas rat snake. We're not going to keep him. We'll turn him free tomorrow in a nice area where he can live comfortably, and hopefully no people will see him. Remember, the biggest mistake that people make a lot of times is out of ignorance. They see a snake and they're just scared to death of a snake, and they think any good snake is a dead snake. So this little guy here is actually very helpful for humans, and they're non-venomous and non-danger for most people. So, Texas rat snake. Okay guys, it's the next day, and we're out here in the woods now. We're going to turn the snake free. So we picked a pretty safe area away from houses and away from the street, and now we're just going to let him go. So we got him in the tank. Just going to open it up and let him out. There he goes. He's gone. Thanks for watching.